there's not a chance in hell that this is funny or gonna work. And when you see those flat, corny, late-night monologue jokes with no audience, Colbert, there's Jimmy Kimmel, there's Fallon. What they're doing is just like reading off of a teleprompter. So a bunch of really good joke writers wrote them some stuff, and then they're playing to the audience, and the audience is like laughing, so they get this feedback, and they know how to do that. They stand there, and there's applause signs. And then there's producers. There's the warm-up guy that's literally telling people to applaud. They're like, okay, explain to the people. Yeah. Okay, when Jimmy comes out, I want a big round of applause. Let's practice.
They're just like the fact checkers. They're guardians of the narrative. You know,
How can Jimmy Kimmel live with him? Like, Jimmy Kimmel is a talented guy, and I don't think he's like an evil person or something, but he's made this deal where he just serves power and attacks anybody who challenges power. Like, how can, honestly, how can he look in the mirror and say, I'm doing something honorable? Like, how can he live with himself? How can his wife sleep with him?
Well, it'd be...
I mean
it'd be one...
For years, he sat behind his late-night desk as the king of snark, armed with a sharp tongue and a legion of writers who insulated him from the real world. He built an empire on mockery, safely launching insults at anyone who strayed from the approved Hollywood narrative.
Jimmy Kimmel's a loser. I do Jimmy Kimmel. I did him a lot.
Yeah.
And he'd be standing on the sidewalk. Oh, sir, may I bring you in? He'd bring me in every time. The whole show is talking bad about Trump.
He called us doofuses when we had you on.
He's a group of doofuses in flat-brimmed hats.
Guess what? We
ask
did
him how many.
what he did.
Ask him. Yeah, you do bigger. Yeah, you do. His show's dying.
Even the quote comedians, they were on propaganda duty too. Watch this.
He's also pushing U.S. intelligence to find evidence for this theory that the virus was accidentally released from a lab in Wuhan. That's his new angle to feed the wingnuts, to treat this virus like it was a conspiracy of some kind.
It should have never happened. This plague should never have happened. It could have been stopped. But people chose not to stop it.
What people? Tomorrow he'll blame the Spanish flu on Antonio Banderas.
Yeah. Imagine if you're a comedian and all of a sudden your cue card has all kinds of talking points from politicians and foreign governments on it. Don't read it. You degrade yourself and you become complicit in the greatest crime in history.
But he made one critical mistake. He became the very thing he once pretended to fight. He morphed from a comedian into a smug, out-of-touch elitist, lecturing the very people he was supposed to entertain. And that arrogance made him a target. Now, two of the most powerful and feared voices in new media, Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson, have teamed up to dismantle his entire career piece by painful piece. This wasn't just a roast, it was a career bonfire designed to expose a rot running deep through modern entertainment.
Problem with Elon from the beginning of this, but it's like he's in this leftist thought bubble. He is in the most leftist thought bubble available, which is Hollywood. And, and I think also, he famously, there's some videos of him in blackface, and those came out, and he had apologized for them. And I think he took that hit and, really doubled down the other direction.
Joe Rogan didn't just criticize Jimmy Kimmel. He performed a public autopsy on his career, trying to pinpoint the exact moment the comedian died and the political puppet was born. He framed Kimmel as a tragic figure, a once talented guy who got completely lost in the blinding lights of Hollywood. Rogan diagnosed the problem as a terminal case of the Hollywood leftist thought bubble. He argued that Kimmel, desperate for acceptance in that exclusive world, became infected by its groupthink, losing all connection to the average person. He was no longer speaking to America, he was speaking to his celebrity neighbors.
Suck up.
Yeah.
To the people in charge.
Exactly.
He's their Praetorian Guard.
Yeah.
And it's like the self-hatred he must feel, because he wasn't always, that's my point. Yeah. I mean, Colbert has always been a hard partisan, talented guy, but obviously he's not a comedian. But Kimmel was a comedian. Like, how does he, I don't understand.
I don't know
how he can.
Joe compared it to watching a kangaroo walk into a lion's den wearing a steak suit.
Worse yet, Rogan claimed Kimmel made a deal with the devil to secure his place. He became the establishment's Praetorian Guard, a loyal soldier paid handsomely to attack anyone who dared to challenge power, from Donald Trump to independent thinkers like Aaron Rodgers. Rogan even suggested a deeply personal reason for this transformation. He pointed to the resurfaced videos of Kimmel in blackface, speculating that the public shame from that scandal caused him to frantically overcorrect, becoming a hyper-vigilant moral crusader just to save his own skin.
Equally is joking about each other indiscriminately. So yeah, I think comedians who, and this is why so much of comedy is not funny today. It's my chief criticism of like late night comedy, which I find unwatchable. I think it's totally unwatchable.
But also contemptible. I mean, they're collaborators.
They're just like the fact checkers. They're guardians of the narrative.
The takedown got brutal, with Rogan questioning how Kimmel could even live with himself. He pondered the self-hatred Kimmel must feel, knowing he had traded his comedic soul for a role as a political attack dog. He wasn't just a sellout. He was a cautionary tale. Then, the entire firestorm was ignited by a rumor so explosive it almost didn't matter if it was true. A supposed $500 million lawsuit from Donald Trump. The rumor spread like wildfire across the internet, and for Kimmel's critics, it was the ultimate karmic punchline.
I just got a review, and has there ever been a worse host than Jimmy Kimmel at the Oscars? His opening was that of a less than average person trying too hard to be something which he is not and never can be. Get rid of Kimmel and perhaps replace him with another washed up but cheap ABC talent, George Slopanopoulos.
For years, Kimmel had thrown endless punches without ever facing a single consequence. Now, the very man he turned into a nightly caricature was threatening to hit back with a legal army and a price tag that could bankrupt a small nation. The hunter had officially become the hunted. Rogan savored the irony, calling it a Shakespearean twist. He painted a vivid picture of Kimmel, the man who built his brand on smug confidence, suddenly scrambling behind the scenes, realizing his punchlines were about to be cross-examined as evidence in a federal court.
What Tim Pool said is that Twitter was working with them. That I guess they weren't being honest about it. They were working with them. What were you telling me that Jimmy Kimmel tweeted something and tried to delete it?
Yeah, it looks like, I could be wrong about this, but Kimmel was pissed at Musk.
Why?
For buying Twitter.
But what does he care? What does he?
But while Rogan's attack felt like a chaotic bar fight, Tucker Carlson's was a silent assassination. With his signature, knowing smirk, Tucker didn't see a man. He saw a product, something manufactured and soulless. He described Kimmel as a sad figure churned out by the Hollywood assembly line, complete with manufactured charm, processed moral outrage, and a shelf life directly tied to who he insulted on air. He wasn't a person anymore. He was a brand.
Remember the Academy Awards? I said how he's the worst host in the history of the Academy Awards. And this stupid guy goes up, and just before the Best Picture of the Year, the show is almost over. They're waiting for the Best Picture of the Year. He gets up and he says, and his wife said, please don't do it. Please, darling, don't go out. His manager said, don't do it. I have to do it. He goes out and reads my truth to the entire audience right before the prime time, the Best Picture. And it said basically, he is the worst host of the history. He reads the whole thing. And then I think he said something like, ha, 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 he thinks he bothers me or some crap like that. I said, he's one of the dumbest human beings ever. He should have listened to his wife. What a dope.
To Tucker, Kimmel's nightly crusade against Trump wasn't brave or edgy. It was the laziest, safest play a comedian could make. It was cheap activism wrapped in applause cues, designed to comfort the powerful, not challenge them. It was a performance of courage with zero actual risk. Tucker argued that Kimmel had abandoned comedy to become a gatekeeper, using humor as a weapon to bludgeon dissent and enforce the approved narrative. His monologues weren't jokes. They were sermons designed to keep his flock in line.
Yes. Then you have to insulate it from criticism. And what's the most effective kind of criticism there is? I think it's mockery, which exposes foolishness for what it is. So it makes perfect sense to me. I honestly, I was mistaken about this. It's something I admit I was wrong about, is when early on, when we first started getting fact checked and we first started having these issues with censorship with the Babylon Bee, it was my belief that humor, these were humorless scolds who just didn't think our jokes were funny, and they thought they were offensive and they were being hypersensitive. And that's not the case.
This is why Tucker saw the lawsuit, real or not, as an inevitability. It was the bill finally coming due for his service to the establishment. It was, as he put it, a brick finally being thrown through the glass house of Kimmel's own making. The feud reached its most public and humiliating peak during the Academy Awards. In a moment of pure, unadulterated ego, Kimmel decided to confront his chief antagonist on the world's biggest stage in front of hundreds of millions of people.
But it's not just that, he's like pouring hot oil on the peasants from the parapet. Right. Like he's hurting anyone who challenges the king. Right. It's crazy.
It is crazy. It's upside down. The comedians should be poking holes in the popular narrative, not propping it up.
Jimmy Kimmel is. Like, truly. No, I mean it.
You said it, not me.
No amount of money is worth what he's doing,
Proudly
in my
read
opinion.
a Truth Social post from Donald Trump, who had just called him the worst host in history. The celebrity audience laughed on cue, the producers clapped, and Kimmel took a bow, thinking he had scored a major victory. He was wrong. What he actually did was reveal a stunning weakness. He showed the entire world that Trump was living so deep inside his head that he had to use the Oscars stage for a personal therapy session. It wasn't a power move, it was a public confession of his own obsession. The hypocrisy of it all was staggering, especially for anyone who remembered where Jimmy Kimmel came from. Before he was a moral scold lecturing America on ethics, he was the co-host of The Man Show, a program that would be instantly canceled today.
With late night television, nobody gives a fuck about it anymore.
I know.
And it's slowly, you have a bad business model and you're not adapting.
Yeah. The creativity's gone for late night comedy, right? Like that's not really a thing anymore.
You got Jimmy Fallon doing a song about different variants of.
The Man Show was a festival of political incorrectness, built on beer, crude jokes, and a juvenile humor that would make today's HR departments faint. The man who now clutches his pearls at the slightest offense built his entire career on the very things he now claims to despise. Ultimately, the war against Jimmy Kimmel is just one battle in a much larger conflict, the slow, painful death of late-night television. A generation of hosts, led by figures like Kimmel and Stephen Colbert, broke the golden rule of comedy. They chose a side. By transforming their shows into partisan echo chambers, they alienated half the country. And as their ratings plummeted, a new media empire was rising, led by the very people they mocked. Rogan and Tucker built massive audiences by having the unfiltered conversations that late night was now too scared to touch. The illusion is now completely shattered. The takedown was so effective because it wasn't just about politics, it was about authenticity. Rogan exposed the sellout, and Tucker exposed the hollowed-out system that produced him. Kimmel's armor of invincibility is gone. In the end, it no longer matters if the lawsuit was real or if Kimmel survives this storm. The damage is permanent. The king of late night has been dethroned not by a rival network, but by a new media empire he refused to see coming. And his fall serves as a chilling warning to the rest of the old guard. The game has changed, the audience has moved on, and if you don't adapt, you will be forgotten.